the liberation of the mind should go hand in hand with the liberation of the land. To legitimize the occupation and the attack on the Palestinian person, people who don't want to speak up, they fear that they will be arrested. The more we step forward and speak, the more we feel protected.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the 6 Degrees podcast. Today we have a very exciting episode, a bonus episode with Dr Samah Jabr.
Yes, so Dr. Samah is a psychiatrist, psychotherapist, and an author, and she has actually penned the book in front of me today. It's Radiance in Pain and Resilience, the Global Reverberation of Palestinian Historical Trauma. You have worked in the intersection of medicine, resistance, and liberation, and you are one of the leading voices in Palestine for liberation psychology, for us all, really. Your latest book also includes a lot of stories about the psychology of Palestinians and the resilience that they've had to face or go through. And you talk about the concept of sumud, which inshallah we will be discussing maybe a little bit later today. I think it feels especially significant that you're here with us and your very first book tour begins here in Australia. This is a land built on settler colonialism and there is ongoing oppression and dispossession of Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islander peoples. To host this conversation is to recognise that there are so many similarities between the Indigenous struggle and the struggle of Palestinians who continue to fight for justice. In that way, I think it's quite meaningful to us for it to be released here today. We would like to acknowledge the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on where we are located today. We pay our respects to elders, past and present, and to all First Nations people present with us today. We would also like to acknowledge the ongoing genocide and war going on in Palestine, as well as other oppressed countries such as Sudan and Congo.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's very meaningful for me to be among the people here and interact with practitioners, professionals, and people in solidarity with Palestine.
The pleasure is all ours. Now, Dr. Samah, I guess just one of the first things, and you know, as someone who loves reading and is always daunted by the idea of writing, we know that you've had quite a large voracious kind of base of research and articles and writing that you've done before with books as well. What is the hardest part about writing this book in particular for you, Dr. Samah?
To be honest, I cannot at this time of my life and my career write a book from page one until the end. This book is a collection of essays that I write in reaction to my living and working experience in Palestine. And I have to say that I'm a clinician, a trainer, and a supervisor in Palestine. This keeps me busy. Writing requires time. And I write in order to make sense of my reality. I wish I could put more time in writing. I write out of urgency because sometimes I need to write in response to certain events, or sometimes I'm so triggered by a clinical encounter and I worry that I will forget my first-hand reflections about a person that I encounter. So I start to write about these triggering moments. So this is a collection of essays that were written mainly in reaction to the events in Gaza and in response to the clinical presentations that Palestinians from the West Bank and Jerusalem bring to the clinic, in reaction to the international response to what's taking place in Palestine, people who express solidarity, governments who express apathy or complicity about the events that the slaughter in Gaza. So those are my reflections to the reality in which I live and work.
Yeah. Sounds like writing itself is like the form of resistance and the form of action that you take in amongst others.
Yes, I believe that our struggle against the occupation takes many forms, and it should not be decided by the military confrontation alone. The Palestinians have been misrepresented in mainstream media. We have to engage in an intellectual struggle and intellectual resistance to the imposition of falsification of history of the Palestinian people. Because the attack on us is not only an attack on the Palestinian bodies, exterminating hundreds of thousands of people. It is also an attack on our culture, on our identity, on how we are represented in the world, and we should maintain that. Writing, telling our own stories in the face of the falsification of history is the least that we can do in order to preserve our minds and our culture and our identity. This is an important act of resistance, but it is also an important element in maintaining the Palestinian psychology. This is our testimony of our reality. The political violence has the interest in breaking our will and our agency, in imposing helplessness on us. So to maintain our capacity to tell our story, to engage in this kind of intellectual resistance is a way to keep our minds liberated. The liberation of the mind should go hand in hand with the liberation of the land. I worry a lot about the project of liberation that does not take into consideration the psychological damage that has been done to people.
Yeah.
And we should not wait for the liberation of the Palestinian land to do what is necessary.
So true.
It is necessary now to do everything that can help Palestinians to express their agency and their will. And we went through many difficult moments in our history. We have not, there are moments, there is damage. I don't deny that there is damage to the collective identity and psyche, but I think any contribution that tries to maintain the Palestinian authentic voice would contribute to this maintenance of our agency, which is very important in our psychological liberation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this intellectual resistance is so incredibly important, as you noted, but it would come with a lot of resistance as well from the occupation.
A lot of oppression.
A lot of oppression.
Preemptive oppression.
Preemptive, absolutely. On another podcast, I remember hearing that a lot of academics were being targeted even before they published any work, or just simply for practicing in Palestine. I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into what some of the struggles during your time, during your practice were like, especially before or around the time that you published the book.
Well, let me talk a little bit about the preemptive oppression. The slaughter that we are witnessing now in Gaza was made possible because of false propaganda created by Israelis but spread through international media about Palestinians beheading babies, Palestinian raping women in the envelope of Gaza, and many other lies. The occupation of Palestine was made possible also with false propaganda about the land of no people for the people with no land. So this is the preemptive oppression and erasure. Erasure of our existence. And when we prove that we exist, then we are vilified, dehumanized, to legitimize the occupation and the attack on the Palestinian person, the Palestinian individual. The occupation is interested in empty land. So everything that they are doing has the intention of exterminating as many as possible, dispossessing as many as possible, displacing people massively. And for those who stay, the intent is either to make them shadows of human beings or vilified to the point that they are neglected and ignored by the world. So one way there are two important ways that contribute to the attack on the Palestinian representations. One of them, to represent them as barbaric, savages, terrorists. Another way, to represent them as mentally disturbed.
Yes.
There is a lot of suffering, a lot of pain that is taking place. Many international NGOs, they conduct surveys on the Palestinian people and using individualistic measurement units. And they conclude that Palestinians have a very high psychological morbidity. And this psychological morbidity can be understood that we don't make sense, that we have loss of capacity. It is another attack on our credibility. And these two elements contribute to dismissing the Palestinian voice in the international community. So any contribution from Palestinians, academic, in literature, in medicine, in becoming spokespeople for their nation, I think it is an expression of agency and an affirmation of our identity and our legitimate desire and aspiration for sovereignty.
So before even writing your book, it's like you have to work with that pretext, which is built upon years. And it's something that, colonizers would have done for every country that they've colonized to make the people that they're colonizing seem, like you said, barbaric behind, and kind of design propaganda that draws people away from having that general, natural human reaction and response to them. But with you specifically, while you were writing your book, did you encounter any instances or situations where you felt like you were personally being targeted?
Any Palestinian is targeted. And I learned very early, growing in an occupied land gives you the experience of being aware of the risks, but at the same time, we can develop the capacity to calculate this risk and gauge our freedom of expression, gauge our ability to express ourselves with the risk. And I think that I worked hard on connecting myself with academic and medical institutions, local and international, that hopefully can give me a little bit wider margin of expression.
Yeah.
And I use a professional language in my writings that cannot be accused easily. Those are my efforts to manage the possible risk. But I want to say something general about the risk. In my work as a psychiatrist, I see people who cannot enjoy their life because they have health anxiety. So they cannot enjoy the time where they are healthy because they are so preoccupied with a possible illness that will come upon them. And I see people who are very stingy. They cannot enjoy the money that they have in fear that one day they will lose their money. And living in an occupied land means that there is risk around. But if we want to avoid the risk all the time, we will give up on our agency.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that will dehumanize us. Why do we avoid the risk? Why? Let's delve into it a little bit. People who don't want to speak up, they fear that they will be arrested. Or in times of crisis like in Gaza, we saw university professors, poets, other role models, intellectuals being assassinated, targeted and assassinated. So that's the fear. The fear is that you will be eliminated. So what shall we do in reaction to that fear? To eliminate ourselves preemptively?
Yeah.
We cannot do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that we should express our agency. We should speak our reality as much as possible. We need to use a language that embodies justice, humanity, dignity. We should avoid borrowing the tools of the oppressor. If they dehumanize us, we should avoid a language that is dehumanizing. If they accuse us and use false propaganda, we should avoid using false propaganda in reaction to that. So those are the premises by which I try to live and write and express myself.
Yeah.
And I will not cancel my voice and agency in fear of risk, because I think that they punish a few of us to impose this self-elimination on all of us. And we should not fall into that trap.
No, absolutely.
But at the same time, I have to say that the more we step forward and speak, the more we feel protected. And also, I want to say that the more we have connections outside Palestine with people who live in countries where there is a wider margins of safety and freedom of expression, the more protected we feel. So we should not forget these elements of protection.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not only resistance, but it's also protective for you. And I can hear, and that's really powerful for me to hear that, you know, how much this means to you and how much writing, I guess, holds to you. I know that we've spoken about the book a little bit, but of course, one of your other identities is being a psychiatrist, and they're all kind of, you know, melded together in some kind of way. But you speak about your work as a psychiatrist in the book a lot. But I really am just curious, what does a normal day look like for you in Palestine working as a psychiatrist, Dr. Samah?
I want to centralize my identity as a psychiatrist, a medical doctor, a psychiatrist, a psychotherapist, a trainer in psychotherapy, because I think this is the central thing, and this is the thing that consumes most of my time in Palestine. And my writing is an extension for that identity.
Yes.
let me explain in what way it is an extension, and I will come back to describe my regular day in Palestine. So my writing is my testimony about the work that I do with people. I think that being a doctor and a mental health professional makes me very close to the pain of people. And as a clinician, I have certain tools to help people deal with that pain, but there will always be residual pain. And I think when our capacity to deal with the pain is limited, we have the responsibility of informing about the conditions, the context, the power structures, the systems that generate that pain. This is an expansion of my role as a psychiatrist. And a clinician.
Yes.
And also, the encounter with the patient leaves me with thoughts and feelings that need to be regulated. My writing helps me regulate my own thoughts and feelings about my observations. Now, what an average day looks like. I come from Jerusalem and I work in the West Bank.
Yeah.
So much of my time is wasted at checkpoint. Any Palestinian experiences the robbery of time and the attack on the quality of time. We spend a lot of time, there is a lot of time wasted in the life of a colonized.
Yeah.
And because I realize this and feel it on my skin, so maybe my reaction to that is to overwork and to be very pedantic about how I spend my time. Now, I arrive to my clinic. I receive many patients. I try to organize my clinic in a way so that I give privacy to people. I try to avoid having a big number of people in the waiting room. But because people come from different parts of Palestine and they spend a lot of time on checkpoints, so they cannot make it exactly on time. So there will be people gathering in my waiting room. I have a large waiting room in my clinic, and I'm interested in the sociology of that waiting room. In the waiting room of my clinic, there is a tennis table. Okay. And I see people sometimes who don't know each other. They start playing tennis. Sometimes one of them reminds others that it is the time for prayer. They go and make wudu in the clinic and they pray together. So it's interesting what's going on in the clinic before they come to my office and see me.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky to have my colleague Zainab with me in the clinic. She tries to make sure that people have a good experience, that they start on their own organically. But she facilitates things for them when these interactions happen. And she also helps them to be patient with me as I finish my work.
Yeah.
I think that I work long hours. Sometimes the clinic might take 12 hours of my time. I leave late.
How long are your client sessions, or how long do they look like usually?
It depends. If the patient needs psychotherapy, so this might be a 45-minute session. If the patient comes to see me for a stable patient, where I do psychiatric management, maybe it's about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm describing working in my private clinic. But previously, I worked in the public sector.
Yeah.
And I remember having the first day of my clinical work, I had 60 patients coming. So I had only a few minutes with each patient. And I needed to take a very important decision in a few minutes. So I reorganized my work in a way that it became possible to involve other people in the helping profession, training psychologists and social workers to deal with the complaints of families, to contribute to the intake of patients. Patients who were stable, they were given their medications with the help of a general doctor who was trained in mental health. In Palestine, we involve many people who are not highly specialized in mental health in providing an appropriate response to the mental health problems of people. I trained many general doctors and nurses working in primary health care. And I trained many counselors and teachers working in schools. And we established a mental health project in school setting. You can imagine the need is very high. And the staff is like we have a small number of staff and people who are highly specialized, like psychotherapists or psychiatrists. And the budget that is allowed for mental health is very limited as well. So we are trying to do the maximum
with what you have,
using efficient ways of responding to this unusual reality.
Absolutely. And innovative ways too, by involving more than just, what we see here in Western society, which is psychotherapists and psychologists and psychiatrists to practice.
Even, I think, even maybe less typical than other places. Sometimes we trained sport coaches.
Wow.
Interesting.
We trained them to provide low-intensity interventions for groups of children who have behavioral and emotional problems.
Wow.
And community leaders, youth activists. We trained many people to provide psychological first aid. Like university students, to provide psychological first aid. And we trained religious figures like imams and wa'idhat, women scholars.
Yeah, women scholars.
To provide appropriate interventions for people who have suicidal ideation, or for people who have drug abuse problems, because they might be consulted. And in certain occasions, the religious leader can be consulted before the doctor is consulted.
Yeah.
For example, if a person has OCD, and they have symptoms related to their purification, al-wudu, they would go and talk to the sheikh before they talk to the doctor. Yeah. So if the sheikh has the general psychological knowledge about the condition, they might reassure the person and refer him where he needs to go. So we make sure that people who are in a position of helping others, they are equipped with the necessary knowledge and low-intensity interventions that can be useful.
Absolutely. That's quite fascinating, I guess, some of the work you do. And it seems to be far in more role as one in Palestine seems to be a variety, right? You're training other professionals. You're, of course, involved in psychotherapy. You're giving medication to your clients as well. How do you decide on the right intervention for the people that you see? Is there a similar underlying theme that you think about when you're looking at every client, or is it kind of individualized?
Of course, I adapt my intervention to the individual. And the metaphor that I use when I train other therapists and doctors is that you need to be confident in what you are doing. You need to be educated about different modalities of interventions and techniques. You need to know evidence-based practice, but don't be restrained by evidence-based practice because you need to adapt it to the needs of people. So we talk about best practice. We talk about cultural humility and sensitivity. We talk about contextualizing our interventions to the reality of our patients. So with this flexibility and openness, we can adapt our intervention to the particular person. And I will give some examples. The metaphor that I use is that you are like a tailor and you want to design the outfit that is suitable for the different bodies, the different individuals that come to see you. If you have more material, you will be more creative and more confident in what you are doing. So in Palestine, sometimes I see a mother coming for her 3 children who suffer from autism and convulsions. She cannot bring the children because she cannot afford the fees for the taxi that will bring them. Sometimes I see a woman who comes to see me, but she's not sure that she can come again because she will not obtain the approval of her family, or maybe she cannot afford it. Sometimes I see a young man who is an ex-detainee, and when we want to make the appointment for the coming session, he tells me, I'm not sure, maybe I will be rearrested. So when I know that I might see this person for the first and last time, I need to think of what can be done in one session that can help them. We don't learn something like that in our education in therapy. The assumption is that we work in a safe place, and every patient will come on the right time. There are no checkpoints to make people come late. And the patient can commit themselves to a few sessions. But these assumptions don't work in our reality. So we need to be creative and flexible. We talk about best practice. One important principle for me in my work is to let myself be guided by the patient and the needs of the patient. And the patients sometimes tell us things that I consider them as jewels. One patient told me, I don't like therapists because I go to them with one problem and they start checking me to tell me that I have 12 more problems. He's a car mechanic. And he tells me, if a client comes me to change the light, I will change the light for him. And later on, if he has another problem in another part of the car, he will come back. So this is something to learn from the patient. I think we need, listen, I have an extensive training and exposure to Western psychiatry. But I think the lessons that we learn from the patients are very important, and they should contribute in shaping our approach and our work. This is cultural humility.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Do you have any more jewels that you wouldn't mind sharing with us?
I'm sure there's many.
Yeah, of course. I was very touched by this woman from Jericho. She's a mother of a martyr. You know, if I work for an international NGO, medical NGO, they will not accept that I write in my file that she's a mother of a martyr. But if you want to give reverence in the Palestinian society and use a language that matches with the pain of people, we call her a mother of a martyr. Anyway, this woman suffers from depression. Well, she was referred to the NGO because the person who referred her, a therapist, thought that she has depression. And my role at that point was to match a patient to certain therapists that I thought would help her. So she received therapy from a therapist for a few sessions. And then she came to see me to tell me that she wants to discontinue therapy. So, of course, I listened to her, ready to learn from her. I asked her about her experience. She said, nothing went wrong with the therapist. She's good to me. She's nice. She tried hard. But this wasn't helpful. And I asked her, but how are you feeling? Do you need to change the therapist, find another one? She said, no, I don't think that I need it anymore. After the killing of her son, she stayed in bed. She refused to meet others, to go out. She was unable to do the housework as she used to do in the past. And then a few months later, the League of Mothers of Martyrs from the north, from Jenin and Nablus, they came all the way to visit her.
Wow.
And that was very meaningful to her. And they recognized that she's not doing well. So they started talking to her about her experience. She said, they took my WhatsApp number. They added me to the group. And they gave me attention. They would call me. They would send me messages. They asked me to go and try cook a simple meal and take a photo and send it to them. And like that, she gradually, little by little, she started to get out of bed and do things. She found a community that shared a similar experience with her. She saw that other people managed to move on in spite of severe personal loss. And that was more helpful and more meaningful to her than the regular psychotherapy that was offered by our institution. So that's another lesson that
Definitely
impacted my practice. So sometimes people can benefit from healing circles and groups of people with a similar experience, listening spaces. And I think given the reality in Palestine now and how much how much distress and pain there is among people, we need to avoid pathologizing people's experience, and we need to create connection among people rather than pathologizing and providing, like putting everyone on therapy chair.
Yeah. And you talk about how that's just not sustainable as well, right? In Palestine, to put everyone in a therapy chair and have that, because there's not enough resources, not enough services around for that to happen as well.
Of course. And I think that some people don't view, like some people prefer to be helped by other people in the community.
Yeah.
In a healing circle, a person feels that they can give and take. In a therapeutic relationship, they feel dependent and they feel that a sick role is imposed on them.
Yeah.
So I think we need to do whatever maintains and guards the agency of people.
Yeah.
So healing circles are a healthier intervention for people who suffer from pain and psychosocial distress. And it differentiates between that and a psychopathology that requires a doctor and a medication and more individualized psychotherapeutic setting.
Completely understand. Yeah. One of the things that I think, one of the stories at least I really felt for within the book was anytime you described how a lot of men and fathers had their identities as providers and protectors stripped away from them, right? They weren't able to protect their family against, soldiers or the occupation. They felt hopeless because of not being able to provide food and things like that. I mean, when I read that, I cannot imagine being confronted with a story like that in front of me and in across from me in a client. How do you manage or what are the dynamics when you're sitting with someone like that and who has had their identity stripped from them?
This is a common experience in Palestine. And it is not accidental, it is strategic. It is by design. It's being done by design. One testimony that was given by one of the ex-Israeli soldiers through an NGO, I can't remember, Combatants for Peace, or an organization for soldiers that reconsidered their previous work within the Israeli army. But anyway, in one testimony for a soldier, they said that they were instructed to humiliate the fathers in front of their children. They were instructed to do that. And sometimes the grandfathers, in order to provoke the young people. And in order to impose humiliation and loss of agency on the fathers. So when people bring up experiences like that, I think it is helpful to make them understand that this is happening to them by design.
Yes.
And sometimes they realize it, other times they don't know this. And I think when they reflect on what happened to them, and they develop political awareness of the reality that targets their agency, they can be liberated from the feeling of shame and humiliation that is meant to be injected in them. And then I try to make people curious. I ask questions to help the person become curious about the motivation of the soldier. Why would the soldier do that to you? And so they will say something like they want to show power. They want to... And if we go on in a series of questions about the motivation, I help them to mentalize the soldier, the perpetrator.
Yeah.
And they might arrive to a point where they understand that the soldier is trying to get rid of his feeling of humiliation by imposing it and projecting it onto them. And when they arrive to this realization, they are freed from the impact of that experience. This is a common experience when people are tortured, when people are harassed at checkpoints. I think those, humiliation is about demeaning others. It's about belittling others. Who needs to belittle people? The one who feels that they are little.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when people arrive to this conclusion, the impact of psychological distress that is brought by this experience starts to get less and less. So if I want to give a title for this kind of intervention, it's conscientization. That comes from the practice of liberation psychology in Latin America. It's using political awareness and mentalization to make the person who experienced humiliation curious about the motivation of the perpetrator.
Yeah.
And this might be a corrective experience for them that helps them see how little and defeated that person is, who is trying to belittle them and humiliate them and reduce them to nothing.
Subhanallah. I mean, you said that this specific thing is a tool, essentially, that is used to subjugate the Palestinians, right? Especially amongst our males. However, something I remember you saying is that you see differences within the psyches of Palestinians across Palestine as well. Like, for example, Palestinians in Jerusalem as compared to the West Bank, as compared to Gaza.
I would put it more clearly. There are different social and political determinants of health in these different communities.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there is a difference in the psyche of each person.
Of course,
That is not only related to the social and political determinants of health. The social and political determinants of health play a role, a factor among other factors that shape the psychological experience of people. But we see some commonalities. So, for example, people who are ex-detainees, they go through a similar experience. So maybe we can help them through group interventions. Women who lost children to political violence, they have a common experience.
Yes.
Minor detainees, they have an experience which makes it difficult for them to go back to school, to have a job. In a way, it interrupts their development. And then the part of their identity as an ex-political detainee becomes more important than other parts of their identity. So how to help them find out and develop the other aspects of their identity. So we need to provide, in my opinion, in my strategic thinking of providing mental health to Palestinians, we need to start with supporting the group, and through our effort to support the group, because it is cost effective and also because it is culturally relevant.
Yeah.
And powerful.
And then while working with the group, we can identify a few people who need more help. So if the group interventions are not sufficient, we will refer those who need more help to more individualized psychotherapy. But I think we should not assume that everyone, like, we should start with group intervention and then refer to with individual intervention and then go to the group. We do the other way around.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting because as I was preparing to meet you and have you on the podcast today, I was reflecting on some of the things that we spoke about yesterday as a part of the practitioner training. And one of the things was that often Western psychology posits that self-actualization cannot come before other needs have been met, right?
Yeah.
But here in this conversation, that's so clearly not true, right? Like Palestinian people maybe don't have shelter, don't have food, but they're still seeking this fulfillment and this sense of identity and agency that, embodies what self-actualization is. Like, I think that in itself is such a limiting idea or a limiting concept, because people who are oppressed, of course, still have like mental health needs. And I know that sounds so simple to say out loud, but I feel like sometimes that's not considered as much, or that contradiction is hard for people to reconcile.
I have to say that if we believe too much in theories, they might blind us from seeing other observations and raising critical questions. So the theory of Maslow is that people cannot reach self-actualization without the basic needs.
Yes.
There are many exceptions. We see more and more exceptions in Palestine, especially in Gaza, where we see journalists and doctors who multiplied their efforts, who did something extraordinary. While they are hungry, they have no shelter, they have no basic things for hygiene. All the basic needs are denied. And yet people insist on confronting the reality and expressing the important meanings and values in their life.
Yeah.
The pain that they experience is an opportunity for them to check their value system and understand what matters in their life. And they try to express that in their action. There were many outstanding examples in Gaza. And we need to understand that in reaction to trauma, PTSD and other traumatic experiences are not the only response. There is also adversity, advanced development, and growth that can happen. And when we think of cross-generational trauma, we need also to think of cross-generational resilience and sumud. I hear it from people talking about how their grandparents survived the Nakba and the catastrophic events of ethnic cleansing that took place in Palestine in 47 and 48. So we need to connect ourselves with our history, the good chapters and the bad chapters of our history, to learn the lessons that will help us navigate our future, but also to use the legacy of sumud and survival. Even more than survival, I think the Palestinians try to be protagonists of their own story. Writing is about being a protagonist of your own story. It's about moving from victimhood to witnesshood, about the reality. This is our responsibility as human beings. This is our role in. This is our promise to humanity, to life. This is our expression and responsibility to embody justice, even in the worst times. And I think the Palestinians are now at the front line in this confrontation with injustice, and we try to meet our human responsibilities.
Would you say that's a reflection of sumud?
Of course, that's a reflection of sumud, which is, let me explain this complex notion for people who are not familiar with it. In comparison to psychological resilience is usually understood as personal psychological traits. The term resilience has been in psychological literature over the past 45 years. The notion sumud includes the personal psychological traits, but it is also about what's going on between two people. It has a social aspect. It's about the connectedness with others when trauma impacts the social fabric between people. So we maintain the social fabric and we try to remedy it. We connect with each other because this attack is collective against the Palestinians, and we need to respond as individuals, but also as a community, as a collective. So sumud is not only about a state of being, it is also action-oriented. It's about what's happening within the self, but also what's happening between people, supporting each other, empowering each other in difficult time. The kind of war trauma and starvation and political violence we are exposed to, it has the intention to make everyone seek personal survival and disconnect. If you disconnect from your identity and from your people, you might survive. If you are attacked because you are connected to them. So it is about breaking this connection.
Yeah.
So in reaction to that, we need to reaffirm and maintain this connection. It's a complex notion to explain. And yet every Palestinian understands it.
Understands.
And we understand it in a reflexive way, in an innate way, because I think if you have the experience of like someone wants to uproot you, to push you away, without thinking of it in a reflexive way, you will resist. You will resist that effort to be uprooted or pushed away. So you know it as a primary reflex.
Inherent.
Without theorizing much about it, without intellectualizing about it. So we know it and we find it a difficult job to explain it to others.
No, you know it and you practice it. I believe the word has, the origins of the word are related to one of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes. Is that correct?
Yes, Allahu Samad. That's true. And in the Arab history, individuals needed to find Samad to protect themselves. Tribes, like weaker tribes, needed to find a strong personality in a well-known tribe to be their samad, like to lean on them in difficult times. So this is samad. And when we say Allahu Samad, God is the samad, like he is the utmost protector. And so this is the origin of the word.
It's very beautiful, subhanAllah. And it makes me sort of very curious about, the role that Islam would play in processing something as difficult, as what's happening in Palestine, all across Palestine, right? So from people in Gaza, experiencing the massacre daily, the genocide daily, to people in the West Bank, only a few kilometers away, looking and thinking, are we next? These are all incredible psychological burdens that I think standard psychology wouldn't have an answer for. And also in their expressions of sumud and resistance, there's a very strong theological component. And I just, I'm just very curious about how that shapes psychotherapy and how, as well, that shapes the general psyche.
I have to say that in Gaza was also an important lesson for me because I contributed to building the mental health system in Gaza.
Inshallah.
And I was shocked in November 23 to see that everything that we built was destroyed.
On purpose.
Yes, but it was a moment of humility for me to see how would people manage without the services that we that were there. And it became clear that people were grounding themselves in faith.
Absolutely.
In every possible way. When a person loses his son, that's a very difficult experience. Yeah. And then they console themselves and others around them saying, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi la raji'un. To God we belong and to God we shall return. And they trust, when they say it and they believe in it, they trust that there it is better for them than
You.
on this earth. So we will go back to the same destination. When people believe in these words, I think this will undo all our psychological interventions. And I think that the Palestinian people, with their Muslims and Christians, are spiritual people.
Very, yeah.
Even if they don't, even if they miss prayer and they don't pay zakah, and there is spirituality and faith, and they compose many of the values of their personal values inspired by faith. And I think the Islamic history is full of stories that help people understand what's going on in the reality. One important element also is the themes of liberation in Islam, which are usually not talked about outside Palestine. We don't bring up the liberation aspect of Islamic theology. There are many verses that tell us that we have the responsibility of fighting transgressions. اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى. So we have this responsibility. A Muslim person, a believer, has this responsibility. Also, when people bring up, in reaction to the starvation in Gaza, people bring up the story of besieging the Prophet ﷺ and his people for 3 years. And also the same story teaches us, in the story of the Prophet, there were non-Muslim people who ended the siege. So this story tells us that we can put our hope in our Muslim ummah and also in others who are not necessarily Muslims.
Absolutely.
But who are connected with us in humanity and in our common sense of justice. So there are many, many things that are related to our Islamic history, to faith, to spirituality, that play a very important role in making people tolerate what is befalling upon them. And I observe this as I live my life in Palestine and encounter friends, colleagues, and ordinary people, but also in my clinical work. In every session, people bring up something from faith or religion that helps them go through difficult time. While I am careful not to assume that every person is like, I avoid proposing this to people in fear that if they don't have this connection, they will resist it. But at the same time, when I explore with people what helps them in difficult time, I think for a vast majority of the people that we see in clinical setting, faith plays a very important role.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease the suffering of everyone, Ya Rabb.
Ameen. And I genuinely, my reflection on that is that I feel like I've learned more about religion and tawakkul through Palestinians more than I feel like anything else. And I feel like I can speak for a larger population who reflects those same things as well. I think one of the underlying features about our conversation and what we've talked about is that even through chaos, even through oppression, even through genocide, there's work to do. There's a duty to uphold. There's a purpose there. And I think this is something that you see amongst so many Palestinians who have had to transition into different roles, who have had to come to terms with, abhorrent things. And for you as well, I see that throughout all of the chaos, there's that purpose and that drive. Is there ever a moment where you feel like it's all too much? Are there moments where sometimes you feel dragged down by what's happening around you.
Of course, it can get difficult sometimes, and that's okay. That's okay. We also know from Islamic literature the story of Dua al-Ta'if, when the Prophet felt abandoned and he was hurt and harmed by people. اللهم إني أشكو إليك ضعف قوتي وقلة حيلتي وهواني على الناس. So he expressed the pain and the hurt that he felt at that time. And I think pain is there for a purpose. Pain should help us understand. We should not dismiss pain or push it away. I think we should sit with it. It is data. It helps us to understand what is meaningful in this life. It helps us to navigate and understand our value system. People feel pain and anger when their value system is being hurt. So it's a moment for us to understand ourselves better and identify the purpose of our life. So it is okay. It's very humane to feel that pain and to listen to it, and maybe it can tell us something about what needs to be done and how to act in order to deal with that pain. So it is information that we should not dismiss.
Yeah. Pain is a signal. Yeah, you're right. It's telling us information. It's giving us a sign.
Yeah. And something that I observe, like a difference between people who come from an Islamic culture and others, is that purpose, finding a purpose in life is very important. And while you go about the purpose of your life, you might feel joy. And sometimes when this is an observation, I don't claim that it is necessarily valid, but this is what I gather from other people. My non-Muslim friends, they talk about joy and pleasure as a very important element that shapes their life and their activities and motivation. And I think this is a big difference, because if they are deprived of joy and pleasure, their reaction can be, they feel perplexed and lost. While I think that we can tolerate loss of joy probably more than others, because we go about our purpose and we get the satisfaction and pleasure out of that process. And I think that purpose is having a purpose and having connection and belonging is very anchoring.
Yes.
I also try to serve some of the people who got out of Gaza and now they live in other parts of the world, here in Australia, in Italy. I met with them. And this is displacement and refuge is a very destabilizing experience. Not only the traumas that they observed before they left, also the trip itself was harmful for some of them, but now is a difficult moment for them to settle in a country. They don't speak its language. They don't know the culture. They need to start from the beginning. Some of them had prestigious jobs back home, but now they lost it. And I think it is very important to help these people find a purpose, a new purpose in their life, and create connections and belong to others. Those are very important elements that will help people be anchored and grounded in difficult times.
One of the more difficult stories that have come out from the genocide has been the parentification of children and how they've had to take these adult roles of taking care of their siblings, other people around them, their communities, and you can quite literally feel the visual weight of responsibility on their shoulders within these times. How do you approach that parentification, and what challenges are you seeing within Palestinian youth like this?
This is a big concern. I understand that the unusual burden on the people forces everyone to respond to a very abnormal reality. I also see that this can change the projected future and growth of these people. Let me say a few more things to explain the situation of children in Gaza. Before genocide, those children experienced economic deprivation. Food insecurity was 60% in Gaza. And multiple wars, shorter in duration, but trauma was widespread in Gaza. Now, the latest escalation killed many fathers and mothers. Grief can also make the parents psychologically absent and unable to attend to their children. Palestinians have prided themselves for so long for their commitment to the education of their children. These children have been outside schools for 2 years, and their life changed dramatically. They spent time searching for water, electricity, books and paper that they can burn to get some heat for basic needs. So that's a big change. And suddenly the eldest child becomes responsible for their siblings. And, the burden, imagine this war left many, many amputees and people with severe handicaps and functional loss in Gaza. So I heard stories about an 11-year-old taking care of her brother who became an amputee after the killing of their parents. Can you imagine this kind of responsibility? A child mothering another child. So it's very confusing. And I think that this is an attack on the normal structures in the Palestinian society, the family, the society. It is a big burden and damage, and it requires an immediate ceasefire and restoration of the life conditions, of the conditions of life that are necessary. Reestablishment of the health system and rebuilding of the educational system, establishment of a routine. As a psychiatrist, I understand that children can be disturbed simply if you change the routine in their life. A child who expects to go to school on one day, if he doesn't go to school for one day and doesn't understand the reason why school is closed on that particular day, they might be disturbed. If they expect the mother to be at home, but she's not at home for no explained reason, this can be perceived as a stressful factor. So imagine everything is way beyond the expectations of children. And many of them cannot make sense of the realities surrounding them. Some of them can understand the political reality, and this will help them to understand that the distress that they experience, it's not about themselves. It is about a political reality that is very cruel and that is affecting them. While I acknowledge that giving children some responsibilities that are suitable for their age can be helpful, can be healthy. It will contribute to their growth. I worry a lot about the overwhelming responsibilities, I worry a lot about the overwhelming responsibilities that they have to shoulder in these exceptional times.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not something that will go away, like you said, until systemic change occurs.
I think, let us imagine the best scenario.
Yeah.
The war ends tomorrow.
Inshallah.
And we establish a routine and we rebuild life conditions in Gaza. The pain and the distress will not go away immediately. Still, there is a lot to bear with, because those who are amputated, those who are psychologically maimed by the events, by what happened to them, they will suffer. Some of them probably for the end of their life. And we know the effect of epigenetics. And we know that being exposed to torture and being exposed to severe life conditions, threat, and starvation, this will not go away immediately. It will affect their future significantly, and it might pass from one generation to another. It's a tragedy, and we need to respond to it in every possible way. We can mitigate its impact, but we cannot delete it completely.
SubhanAllah. I think to relate this to, some of the systemic things that are happening, I know, and one of the,
If I may add something to the same question.
Yeah.
I think the psychological impact on these children is not limited to the growth of their brains and to how they feel and behave now. It will also shape their outlook to the world, how they perceive themselves, how they perceive the world.
Yeah.
And they have experienced a lot of abandonment by the neighboring countries and by the international community that failed to restore the basic human rights to Palestinian children. So this also will have a severe impact on them and how they view the world.
It's a terrifying reality, really, to imagine that. Or not imagine that, have that happen in front of our eyes, really.
So much of the resources required to provide help are integrated within systems that we don't align with. But it's a delicate sort of balance to play on, whether we use those systems and maintain our own internal moral compass and use what's good and leave what's bad, versus completely opposing the systems that are there and using the very limited resources that we might have. Do you struggle with that balance on a day-to-day basis? Have you found the sweet spot? Are you still finding it?
It is challenging sometimes, and we might find ourselves working in a system that does not match with our personal values. And I think that we have the responsibility of trying to push back and try to modify the system in a way that make us feel a sense of alignment between our contribution to the system and the institution and our personal value. Sometimes this becomes impossible. When it becomes impossible, we should be able to know when to leave So we stay there as much as we can contribute positively and modify. Hopefully, sometimes we manage to inject some flexibility and understanding. Other times it becomes impossible. And when we are forced to compromise or betray our personal value system, I think we should have the courage to withdraw and look for other options where we can be at peace with ourselves and our most important value system. I can give examples. Sometimes institutions require of us imposes political neutrality, saying that being neutral means that you should not talk about Gaza. This is not relevant, or imposes a certain language that contributes to the illusion of symmetry, like referring to the slaughter in Gaza as clashes, talking about conflict instead of occupation. Eliminating, I remember writing a proposal for an organization where I used the UN terminology, occupied Palestinian territories, and they wanted to delete the word occupied.
Wow.
Sometimes they try to silence us when we talk about torture. So when I find myself that I have to conceal reality and be silent about human rights abuses that I observe, I cannot continue with that institution. It's better to leave and continue my practice in the direction that serves my purpose in life and matches with my value system.
Being apolitical is to be complicit. And
yes, I think there is a false assumption and false interpretation of neutrality and impartiality in medicine and mental health. While I understand it that we need to serve the best interest of individuals and contribute to their cure regardless of whether we like them or not, whether they are perceived as friends or enemies. This is my understanding of neutrality. I think that the misinterpretation of this word is meant to make medical doctors and therapists quiet about the power and the influence of power on people. Like we are expected to be silent about torture, about a genocide. We need to not challenge power structures. And in doing so, actually, we are doing the antithesis of neutrality because power structures are political.
Yes.
And to be silent about them gives them more strength.
absolutely.
To deny the impact of power structures and structural violence on people means that we are not siding with the affected. We are not supporting them. We are allowing the structural reality, we are allowing the structural violence to hurt them more, to create more pain and distress.
Yeah.
So we are betraying our commitment to the individuals. And the more power structures play a role in the lives of people who are occupied, colonized, marginalized, racialized, the more we need to expose that
Absolutely. Yeah.
and challenge it. So if we become silent about it, we are just allowing power structures to devastate people, and we will be like false witnesses to what is happening. And I see a match between my ethical responsibility as a doctor and a therapist and my ethical responsibility as a Muslim. ولا تكتموا الشهادة. Do not conceal testimony. From the point of view of liberation psychology, testimony is an intervention to help the oppressed deal with the reality. So I see an alignment between the two ethical references that I have.
The first point of, for lack of a better phrase, cure, or the first cure would be the liberation of Palestinians from the occupation. That's step one. And everything else will come after that.
I'm careful to say that. I think that if we bind our well-being by the liberation of the land, we are making a big compromise. I think we should work on the liberation of our psyches, of our spirits, of our minds, in spite of the occupation of our land. And actually, the occupation of our land should motivate us more to work for justice and liberation.
Absolutely, yeah. What are some of the challenges that you have seen Palestinian youth face amongst the occupation?
So, in addition to the oppression and the denial of their agency and the psychological impact, I think the youth have a real problem with representation. There is a monopoly of the representation of the Palestinian people that exempts the youth from participation. We have the same old, tired faces representing Palestinians. And while the youth put their sacrifices and their lives on the front line in working for the liberation of Palestine, their aspirations are not expressed in the official political Palestinian representation. And this can be very frustrating for the people. Also, I think that media and education play a role in depoliticizing the Palestinian people and preventing them from having and expressing their critical thinking. In a way, education and mainstream media try to recruit submission. The educational system is about memorizing the textbook.
Yes.
And writing it in exams so that you will get a degree that will be recognized by our universities. And everything pushes people to be obedient contributors in a system that cannot be challenged.
Yeah.
This is not only the case in Palestine. I think it's in the region.
Definitely.
In post-colonial countries.
Yeah.
But also in Palestine. I think people develop their critical thinking in reaction to the political reality. It is the life events and the confrontation that helps people to think critically of their reality, not the official educational system. And also media contributes to uplifting and amplifying certain voices over others. And usually the voices that are amplified by mainstream media, whether we talk about local media or international media, those are the voices of the people who don't challenge the political reality. So maybe they can, mainstream media can tolerate that you use the Palestinian symbols, the kafiyah, the watermelon, that you chant national songs. But if you want to be politically critical, there are many ways to silence that voice and uplift other voices that use empty cliche of nationalism over a real critical political content.
Very tokenistic in nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a mask for what's going on underneath.
Which is the main root of the issues we've come to discuss.
If I may add something, because I think within the Muslim youth, we also have this problem. Although critical thinking is a very important element in Islam, Islam came as a revolution against the social structure in Al-Jahiliyyah. And I want to talk about 3 messages within the Quran that urge us to think critically and question and challenge power structures. So there is one verse that says that we should not follow our parents blindly. Another verse that warns us from following the people of influence. And a third one that tells us that وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. The majority of people don't know. So it warns us from following the majority of people. My understanding of these 3 verses is that we have our own brains and we should use them in understanding our reality. We are encouraged to think critically and be cautious of the factors that enforce social conformity on us. The majority of people, our fathers, and our fathers in a metaphorical way, the leaders, and the people of influence, they impose social conformity. And we need to be cautious
Of that. Yeah. SubhanAllah. That's quite perspective opening for me to hear as well. And you're right. I think a lot of us have become complacent and felt a sense of safety and comfortability within just following, I guess, the dogma, right? But that's not always, and that's not reflective of religion and our religion specifically itself, which is fascinating to reflect on.
No, definitely. I think pre-October 7th as well, there were a lot of people that were a lot more afraid to speak up about Palestine, what was happening in Palestine. And it wasn't until there was a wave of people doing so that they felt more comfortable to come out. So it's definitely something that's very relevant to discuss and a great reflection on our community. I really wanted to ask something personal, if you allow me. You know, I'm genuinely fascinated by people who, despite all circumstances, and despite the forces that are designing or trying to design helplessness within the Palestinian people, dedicate everything they have, their entire life, to fighting that. And no matter how, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us a long life and a long career.
Ameen.
I mean, there will come a point where we have to hand the baton to someone else. Do you reflect on that? What would you like to be handing over? What have you done so far? And what do you want to finish? And what do you want to hand over?
Well, I realize the fact that we have short lives, and I think my commitment to education is one way to pass my ethical stance and my value system and my knowledge and wisdom that I obtained from living and working in Palestine to other people within Palestine, but also outside Palestine, because I think that the Palestinian story is an important lesson in the history. And those lessons can be generalized. It has global aspects that are important. The situation is very urgent, and we reached a tipping point in the confrontation between the colonized and the colonizers. And I think that many people can liberate themselves through the Palestinian experience if they think critically and try to take a stance on Palestine. It will help them adjust their life and their priorities, rethink them, working in different institutions, understanding the politics of their countries. While Palestine seems very far from Australia, I think it is very close to anyone who considers himself from the Ummah. And I think it's very close to anyone who considers that we are connected in our humanity.
Absolutely.
And considers justice as a very important a need for human beings. So teaching is my way to pass the torch from one person to another, from one generation to another. And I hope that my writings serve in that purpose, so that if I don't have the opportunity to meet people in person, maybe those writings can shed a light on the reality in Palestine that can be relevant to many people around the world.
I'm sure they will, inshallah. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Samah. I mean, we are coming to the end of the podcast, but before we get to end, we want to ask you one final question. And that is, amongst all of the care that you provide for your community and to us as well, who is taking care of you?
I'm surrounded by very good friends, family members. I ground myself in faith and spirituality also. And I love gardening and obtain a lot of pleasure out of gardening, not only organic food, but pleasure. Watching the different seasons helps me deal with death and renewal in a very reasonable way, I think. I have the capacity to see to identify the positive things in the times of darkness. I can see positive things. I can see the goodness on this earth. And I think that selective search for good things also helps me cope with all the difficulties and the threats surrounding me. I'm not naive about them, but I also think a lot and reflect on the good opportunities and good encounters that I have in my life.
Absolutely. I think we've had a profound conversation about what's the reality of life, but also you've imbued us with a renewed sense of hope. And one, we greatly thank you for your presence and the pleasure of hosting you on our podcast for. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Samah, for being with us today. And we hope that whoever is listening gains a small seed or many seeds of learning and knowledge from it, inshallah. So Jazakallah khair for your time and your patience with us.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being with you too.
Thank you for being with us today. If anything in this episode felt heavy or difficult, please reach out to someone you trust. You can also contact Kids Helpline on 1800 55 1800, which is a free counselling service available 24/7 for those aged 5 to 25 years. Or you can book an appointment with our Helping Hands team on the website 6degrees.org.au. Take care of yourself, and inshallah, we'll see you next time.